Mykola, thank you for braving the inferno outside. It's extremely hot for May in Washington. And thank you for coming on to the program.
Thank you for invitation.
Now, you have devoted a great deal of energy and time to the issue of Ukrainian children that have been abducted by invading Russian forces in the regions that the Russians have occupied in eastern Ukraine. Could you tell me, what do the Russians intend to accomplish, and how many children have they seized?
Save Ukraine organization I founded 2014 after first invasion. It is the largest in Ukraine, rescuing abducted children from Russia occupied territory. As well, we provide evacuations from the front line, because if Russia are coming to any village or town, they not only invading territories, but they kidnapping children. And through this way, tens of thousands of children found themselves stolen in Russia, deeper Russia, or in occupied territories. They could be transferred to Crimea or to Rostov or another cities. And always I ask, why Russia doing this? Why Russia should steal children? Because it's Russia's intention to turn Ukrainian children into Russian children. It was before, but now to turn all Ukrainian children into Russian soldiers. Russia needs soldiers. That's to fight with the Ukraine and with NATO countries. They are preparing themselves for future big war with the NATO countries, and Putin dreaming about it, because he told before that it was a huge mistake when Soviet Union collapsed to
in 1991
abandon that countries. Yeah, and Russia empire lost a lot of countries, and Ukraine as well is one of the biggest territories, one of the biggest countries. And now we living independently. Yeah, we have a war, but we know our identity. We are not Russians. We are Ukrainians. We live in independent countries, sovereign country. That's why for us it's so important to fight for our children. This war on children, on families, not for the territory. That's why for us extremely important protect our children, and we're fighting for our children.
Now, are the Russians continuing to abduct children, or does the fact that the front lines have solidified, in fact, Ukraine is making a little progress in pushing back Russia, has that attenuated the ability of Russia to seize more children?
It's happening every day. Every day.
It's still happening.
Yes, because for us, what is abduction? It's not only when someone coming to the parents and taking your child to Russian facility. And every day parents dying. Someone is arrested. Someone is killed. Thousands of parents were killed in Mariupol. Where are that children? And Maria Lvova Belova, who received warrant order from International Criminal Court,
we should say this is the woman in Russia who has been sort of, so to speak, deputized by Putin.
Putin's commissioner on children's rights,
and she,
so-called.
Right.
And she stated that, oh yeah, we brought 31 or 33 Ukrainian children from Mariupol to Russia. Yeah, I know this, and I took one of them, and another was sent to another families, to another facilities. But what about another thousands of children? Where are they? Because it's really hard to find any information about these kids. And it is every day when Russia taking kids from occupied territories to Russian re-education camps, to Russian military camps from 12 years old, to Russian families, Russian facilities, and they don't want to provide any information with Ukraine, with Ukrainian authorities. That's why We don't know real number. We identify as Ukrainian government, we identify only 20,000, but this number much higher. We know this.
What does a re-education camp consist of? What happens there?
It's a Russian camps for Russian children where they just change these camps, like summer camps, to re-education camps. When they bring in Ukrainian children massively, because we are rescuing kids, and for now we rescued more than 1,300 kids from Russia captivity, and they testify that many of them have been taken from Ukrainian territories to Russian territory, to Russian facilities, to Russian these re-education camps, when you as a child should wake up early morning to sing Russian anthem, to handle weapon, because a lot of these camps are militarized, and Russian soldiers come in and children handle weapon, and then children marching, children singing Russian songs. To speak Ukrainian is prohibited. You can't speak Ukrainian. You could be punished. We have kids who've been rescued testifying that they've been punished just to wearing like this, blue and yellow color because it's Ukrainian flag or something Ukrainian, or regime found some photos in Ukrainian or pro-Ukrainian photos in their phones, or they spoke Ukrainian. That's why it's for Russian regime, it's so important to a child obey and follow Russian rules.
Now, some of these children are also placed with Russian families, aren't they?
Yeah, I can tell you a story of 14 years old boy who was fleeing the war with the mother to Russia because Russia occupied big territories just for 3 days. And they were fleeing Russia, and then mother died. And this boy was placed to Russian foster family when foster father was military, was a Russian soldier. He was wounded. And this boy, when we saved him, told that in his school he was bullied from Russian children. In this foster family, they hated him so much that, and foster mother told him all time bad words and accused him of everything what happening in Russia, that like this boy is responsible for their things. And when we found the grandmother and sent her to take this child from Russia, Russian authorities told her, you should receive Russian citizenship and stay in Russia if you want to take this child and receive guardianship for this kid. That's why we take this child and the grandmother without documents to Ukraine secretly. That's why we called rescue mission what we are doing. We built underground railroad to find these kids. We every day searching these kids in Russian territory, in occupied territories. We build communication and we provide their rescue from that territories. It's very dangerous, and I can't tell you a lot because many confidential things happening every day, but outcomes is real. We rescued more than 1,000 kids.
But you are able to rescue some of the children by dealing with the Russian authorities directly, isn't that, or no?
No one child was rescued through the negotiations because we have negotiation, as you know, through Qatar, and thanks First Lady, and children were rescued, but much more kids still in Russia. And we need more kids who will be rescued and meet their relatives. And we're so grateful what Melania Trump's doing because it's really helping.
What is she? She's helped put a spotlight on the issue, right?
Yeah, and she helped to rescue that kids which Russia refused to give back. And it was so important because their parents were in Ukraine waiting for years. That kids which Russia kidnapped. And through her support, they were found and brought back. It's really help for them. And we want now to bring more kids from Russia, but Russia don't want to give any information. Russia tried to convince everybody, even here in the United States, that we have no kidnapped children. We have no one separated with their parents. How you can check if this is occupied territory? We have no access to that territories. We have no any independent organization there. Even Red Cross, it's a Russian Red Cross. No any independent organization who could receive in Russia this information from Russian authorities, from children who live in Russia or occupied territories, from Ukrainian children, and check, because no one have access. No one could go to Russian facility, to any territory, and check how many Ukrainian parents were jailed. Thousands of them now jailed and sitting in Russian prisons for years. We know this because we're receiving this information from the relatives. They telling, oh, mother was jailed a year ago and we have no idea if she's still alive. And please save a child, because we were waiting for a long time any information and we didn't do anything. But now our boy is 17, and if we will not save him, he will be forcibly conscripted to Russian army and will die. We don't want, please save him. And we have a lot of calls.
Now, your organization has also tried to help highlight this issue in the United States as well. You've testified before Congress on this issue, and do you feel like you're making headway?
Yeah, we feel that, we understand that after Israel happened, after Middle East happened, and less attention on Ukrainian issue. And that's why we are here, just to refresh information, just to highlight Ukrainian children issue, that they still in trap. They still need to be brought back home to their relatives. That's why we have different meetings with different offices on the Hill. And this week we will have meeting and hearings here just to speak about it, just to give more information, tell stories about that kids who was rescued by us. And we talked with them, and we know exactly what was happening with them, how their friends were killed, how their parents were separated, or through filtration, or they've been jailed and accused of something, and how they've been forced to go to Russian school, how they've been forced to go to Russian military camps, what Russia did with them. And thousands of children have been taken to the Moscow for brainwashing, like to cultural events. But we have kids who've been rescued, and they were telling us that I was brought to Moscow to listen Russian propagandists. I didn't want, but hours I had to sit down and listening for hours, 8-10 hours a day. And even Medvedev, even Solovyov, it's a high-level propagandist of Russia. You know, that children from Ukrainian villages have been brought to Moscow to listen. What for? Just for brainwash them.
Well, part of it is because Putin doesn't believe that Ukraine is an actual nation, right? He believes they all should be Russians.
Mm-hmm. He wants. But I am, as a guy who grew up in Soviet Union, I graduated my school in Soviet Union. I know more than anyone else what does it mean, Russian propaganda. Because growing up in Soviet Union, in Ukraine, I knew nothing about Ukrainian identity, about my legacy. It was forbidden to talk about Ukrainian history. I grew up in my head know that Russia is my enemy, is an enemy of my country. I have to fight with United States. And now you can open Ukrainian book and find history of Ukraine for more than 1,000 years. You know, we been on that territory, what Russia invaded. And we were under the Russian Empire, and now Russia tried to invade us again. And you can open history book for Russian children and for Ukrainian children in occupied territory. And you can read that United States aggressor who started this war, and Russia is the victim who protected their territories. And you can read a lot that US is the enemy and Russia instilling hatred toward the United States. It's clear. You can have this evidence. I can show you this in real books for school children. It means that Russia growing up these kids with a hatred towards United States. And what will happen in future? These kids could be easily converted to Russian soldiers to fight with United States.
How much is Europe assisting you in this effort?
We work with different countries, and we have a great support from European countries, from Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, and we now have very good, we have hope that very soon we will have some financial support from US State Department, because through our meetings with American government and on the Hill, we understand that US have a clear intention to support Ukrainian children, especially to bring back abducted children. And we hope that very soon we will receive enough support for provide our rescue missions.
More broadly, there seems to be a sense of optimism about Ukraine and the war, and less pessimism than there was a year ago. Is that right?
Yes, we could see this, and we could see as well, on the one hand, that trauma of children is so deep, it's so huge, and it's millions of children who've been traumatized. We could see a critical situation with demography, that birth death rate is horrible. When one child born, 3 people died. And we lost almost 50% of children's population for 12 years. Many families with children left country.
Right.
Yeah, and 1.6 million of children trapped in occupied territories. It's huge number. It's collapse. It's genocide what Russia's doing with Ukrainian children. On the other hand, we could see resilience. We could see resilience. How these kids, in the midst of war, when they have this trauma, they have this horrible circumstances, they are growing and they are resilient. They rebuilding their life from scratch, especially that families and children who lost everything. And we helping them. We provide programs for them on the ground, trauma healing program, especially for children with disabilities, for orphans. We didn't place any rescued orphans to the orphanage. It's very important for us to find a loving family for every orphan. And we believe that when we're building this system to dignify every child, to save child, to heal trauma, and to grow up in dignity and well-being, in safety, in the middle of war, we believe that this system and this experience will help us to rebuild whole country on these principles. I'm evangelical Christian, and I believe that for every person, God has a plan. And for Ukraine, we believe that Ukraine will prosper. We believe that we will be shining in Europe, in the world, but we need support. We need now support to stop this war, and to stop Putin with his intention to kill people. He hates us. He hates everybody.
The war
think
is
so.
madness.
Yeah, it's true. Always. Any war.
This one in particular, I think.
Yeah. And when every night, every day, you have shelling all over Ukraine, and no any safe place in whole country, no one. And our children every day listening a raid alarm, and they should go to basements of building, to bomb shelters, and it's constantly for years. We understand that we have to stop this. We no need to prove that Ukraine is a nation. I'm Ukrainian. Why I should tell anyone and prove anyone that I have Ukrainian identity? I know I have legacy. I can tell you story of my parents, my grandparents, who grew up, who lived in Ukrainian land. They count themselves Ukrainians. But why I should prove something? We are Ukrainians. We are proud that we are, and we are fighting for our children to stay on that land and rebuild our country. That's all.
You're fighting against the homicidal dictator.
Yeah, true.
Well, I thank you for coming in, and I thank you above all for your efforts on behalf of these children.
Thank you for highlighting this. It's really a privilege for us. It's a great honor to speak here, to talk with you, and to tell what we are doing. And we thank Americans for support. Everybody who's supporting us, everyone, because we know that million Americans not only praying, and we ask to pray, and they giving to our mission, especially. Many Americans, thousands of them, were supporting our rescue missions because it's clear and it's very close to their heart. Because many of them told me, if something happened with my child, I couldn't stay apart. I couldn't be silent. I have to act. And they feel a pain of other, especially abducted child, as the own pain, as the pain of own child. That's why it's so important for us to feel this encouragement and this support from Americans. And we are so grateful for this support.
Well, we should be thanking you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.